10 Craziest Privileges Serial Killers Enjoyed in Prison. Welcome back, Creepshow fans. In today's show, we're diving into the twisted and shocking world of notorious serial killers. Specifically, the unbelievable privileges some of them enjoyed behind bars. From baking competitions to outrageous escape attempts, these criminals received perks that will leave you shaking your head. You won't believe the shocking liberties these murderers had while serving time for their horrific crimes. Let's count down the 10 craziest privileges serial killers enjoyed in prison. Number 10. Rose West wins a bake-off. Rose West, a murderer and child torturer who was convicted, is regarded as one of the most horrible women in British history. For killing 10 people between 1971 and 1987, including her own 8-year-old stepdaughter, West received a life sentence. She's well known for her award-winning baking skills while incarcerated. In September 2018, she won the top prize in a competition inspired by Bake Off with Victoria Sponge. She was one of the most notorious criminals at HMP Low Newton in Durham, England, but she was still able to impress other prisoners with her culinary prowess. When working under supervision, West was permitted to use knives to make the baked items. There are some very violent women on the wing, and a lot of them are very aggressive toward West because of her crimes, an insider from the prison disclosed. However, she usually diffuses the tension by providing cakes and biscuits to other inmates. Number 9. Ted Bundy, without shackles, was able to escape. Ted Bundy was an attractive, charming, intelligent, and charming young guy who could gain the confidence of nearly everyone. In addition, he was a vicious serial killer who murdered and tortured at least 30 young women in several U.S. states. Nevertheless, he was able to maneuver his way out of even a crowded courtroom. Bundy showed up at the Pitkin County Courthouse in Aspen, Colorado in 1977 for a preliminary hearing. The judge released him from handcuffs and leg shackles since he had chosen to represent himself. As a former University of Utah law student, Bundy requested permission to utilize the courthouse's law library for research related to his case. Once there, the infamous killer fled by leaping out of a second-story window. 6 days later, he was apprehended again while operating a stolen car carelessly. Maps of the mountains surrounding Aspen were also found, indicating that his escape was prearranged. Bundy was sent back to his cell. A few months later, he made another escape. Number 8. Ivan Milat enjoys biscuits and cookies. You've probably heard about Australian serial killer Ivan Milat if you've heard of Wolf Creek. Milat was found guilty in 1996 of killing 7 hikers whose bodies were found near South Wales' Belanglo State Forest. Milat, who was given a life sentence at Goulburn Correctional Center, wrote a series of letters outlining the everyday activities of a murderer in prison. "It's not that we are just stuck in a cell all day," he stated. "I also have the back and front. You can stroll around the front or backyard during the day. Of course, an alternative is to visit other locations, such as the Oval Walk running track, the basketball court, libraries, etc." Milat clarifies that the guards gave him extra treatment, including sweets and biscuits, to keep us calm. "I understand how it costs $320,000 a year per HRMU prisoner," he continued. "But he doesn't receive everything he desires. Because he desired a PlayStation, Milat went on an unsuccessful hunger strike in 2011 and lost 25 kilograms. That's 55 pounds. Number 7. Richard Ramirez' new set of teeth. Richard, the Night Stalker Ramirez mugshot from 1985, taken at the scene, revealed his vampire-like teeth, much as his surviving victims had described them. The Satanist's oral hygiene was then addressed by Dr. Alfred Otero, senior dentist for the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, who worked for 9 months to restore all of the teeth that were decaying. Ramirez exercised his Eighth Amendment rights and demanded that the taxpayers cover the cost of the dental work, as he was unable to pay for the treatment. Ramirez had a flawless smile on his face in court, which went against what the witnesses had said. His legal team attempted to contend that a large number of witnesses were misled and had identified the wrong murderer. Ramirez was condemned to death in a gas chamber after being found guilty of 13 murders, despite the best efforts of his defense. At a whopping $1.8 million, his trial was the most costly in Californian history at the time. Number 6. Dennis Rader gets television in his cell. Dennis Rader, also known as the BTK killer, killed and tortured 10 victims. Nevertheless, because of his good behavior, he was given exceptional rights while inside. One of his privileges is that he can watch TV or listen to radio in his own prison cell. Since 2005, Rader has been a prisoner at Kansas El Dorado Correctional Facility. For his safety, he has been kept in solitary confinement for a long time. We're having a hard time understanding why somebody like this is allowed to earn privileges when all the evidence was presented as to how he can turn what most people would consider to be innocent into something that is evil, stated Kevin O'Connor, a deputy district attorney for Sedgwick County. At first, the prosecution planned to prevent Rader from seeing pictures of women and kids because they thought it would only stoke his deranged desires. But as he faces a sentence of 175 years without the chance of release, his fantasies will remain just that, dreams. Number 5. John Wayne Gase carried tools. John Wayne Gacy's fellow prisoners at Menard Correctional Center in Illinois were enraged by the loose security surrounding him because they feared becoming his future victims. As he assisted with upkeep around the jailhouse, Gase, who was found guilty of killing at least 33 adolescent boys and young men between 1972 and 1978, was permitted to carry sharp objects. He was frequently found in possession of 2 putty knives, both sharpened, one 3 inches wide and the other 6 inches wide, according to a 2-page petition signed by 20 prisoners. He was also exempt from handcuff requirements. Spokesman from the Correction Department, Nick Howell, clarified that Gase served as a handyman at the facility. "It's that simple," he remarked, citing Gacy's prior expertise as a contractor. Some of the prisoners severely damaged the visiting room a few months ago. Gase entered and cleared off that debris. "We prefer not to send tradesmen into that area, nor do we wish to send other non-condemned prisoners there." Gacy's maintenance labor came to a stop in 1994 when he was put to death by lethal injection for his offenses. Number 4. Myra Hindley's decorative cell. Anyone would assume that Myra Hindley was lounging around her house when she was pictured in her short dress in 1985, posing on a bed draped in flowery linens. But Hindley was in her cell at Cookham Wood Prison in Kent, England, where she and her husband, Ian Brady, were serving life sentences for the unpardonable killings of 5 children between the ages of 10 and 17 in the 1960s. A jail guard was stationed outside Hindley's door every night, causing her to experience mental anguish and inhumane and degrading treatment, according to a letter she wrote to the Home Secretary in 1995. Even after turning on her light during the checks, the murderer of the Moors planned to sue the installation. The jail put Hindley under observation after Fred West, a British serial killer, committed suicide because they thought she would try a copycat suicide. She lived until 2002, when she fell ill with pneumonia at the age of 60. Number 3. Carla Hula read 5 books on a murder week. Carla Hula killed 3 young women, including her own 15-year-old sister, with their husband Paul Bernardo at her side. The Canadian sex slayer reportedly read up to 5 books on murder each week to pass the time while she was confined at Kensington Prison for Women in Ontario, feeding her thirst for death. Hula reportedly regretted accepting a plea agreement That spared her from serving a life sentence, unlike Bernardo, and just required her to serve 12 years. Winda Verano, Homolka's lover and was incarcerated with her, disclosed, "I believe she regrets not receiving a life sentence." She was aware that everyone despises her due to her 12-year arrangement with the Crown. She would therefore have had less issues if she had received a life sentence as opposed to a 12-year one. Homolka has altered her identity, been married again, and begun a family on her own since being freed. Number 2. Charles Manson received 60,000 fan letters a year. After being found guilty of 7 killings in the summer of 1969, including the death of actress Sharon Tate only 2 weeks before her due date, Charles Manson was also found guilty of 2 other murders. He was facing the death penalty, but after his sentencing, California abolished the death penalty, meaning he would have to spend the rest of his life behind bars at California State Prison, Corcoran. Manson got more than 60,000 letters a year when he was jailed. He even got engaged to his idol, 26-year-old star Afton Burton, in 2014 at the age of 80, but the relationship did not work out in the end. Prisoners are permitted to receive letters, but Manson was an exception because of his continued cult leadership power and the widespread concern that he would be the target of similar murders. Manson urged his remaining supporters to keep up the fear, but fortunately, once he was securely imprisoned, his power started to wane. On November 19, 2017, he passed away in a hospital due to respiratory failure and colon cancer at the age of 83. Number 1. Jeffrey Dahmer was allowed to taunt prisoners. Between 1978 and 1991, Jeffrey the Milwaukee Cannibal Dahmer murdered and dismembered 17 men and teenage boys. He was given a life sentence. In his confession, Dahmer stated that he created this horror and it only makes sense he'd do everything to put an end to it during his initial police interrogation. Even though he gave off the impression that he was sorry for his misdeeds, he ridiculed other inmates by using his fame. According to prisoner Steven Scarver, Dahmer would assemble his meal into the shapes of body parts and then smear ketchup over it to simulate blood. He would place them in areas where people would congregate, according to Scarver. When it came to some inmates and prison employees, he went too far. Scarver was taunted repeatedly, but no one took action. That is, until he eventually lost his patience. At the Columbia Correctional Institute, Scarver took out a metal bar from a piece of exercise equipment back in 1994. The life of one of the most infamous cannibals in history was then put to an end as he delivered 2 powerful strokes that crushed Dahmer's skull. Thanks for watching Creepshow, fans. What do you think about these shocking prison privileges? Were you surprised by what some of these notorious killers got away with? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe for more chilling true crime content and tap the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Until next time, stay spooky.